Today, I want to explore a question that is becoming impossible to ignore in residential real estate. If technology has fundamentally reduced the cost of information, why are many sellers still paying commission structures that were designed for a completely different era? This presentation is not an argument against real estate professionals. It is not a case for pure do-it-yourself selling either. Instead, it is a data-driven examination of where value truly exists in a modern home sale. We'll look at transaction costs, the impact of artificial intelligence, the role of human expertise, and what may be the most rational path forward for sellers who want both savings and protection. The goal is simple: separate tradition from value and determine what sellers are actually paying for. This is Steve Coleno, and this is Confidential Remarks. Most consumers know that buying or selling a home involves fees. What many do not realize is how large those fees become when viewed as a complete system. On a typical $400,000 transaction, nearly $40,000 can disappear into third-party costs. What's particularly important is who bears that burden. The seller absorbs roughly 76% of these expenses, while the buyer absorbs the remaining 24%. When we look deeper, commissions account for approximately $23,000 of the total. In other words, more than half of all transaction friction comes from one category. That distinction matters because if we're looking for meaningful savings opportunities, commissions represent the largest lever available. The first step in improving efficiency is understanding where the money actually goes. Historically, agents controlled access to information. They had the listings, the comparable sales, the market data, and the communication channels that buyers and sellers needed. In that environment, a 3% listing commission made sense because information itself was scarce. Today, that world no longer exists. Artificial intelligence and digital platforms have reduced the cost of many administrative functions to almost nothing. Market analyses can be generated instantly. Listing descriptions can be written in seconds. Offer comparisons can be organized automatically. Transaction coordination has become highly automated. What once required hundreds or even thousands of dollars in labor can now be performed for the cost of a software subscription. The key takeaway is not that agents are unnecessary. The key takeaway is that administrative work can no longer justify legacy pricing by itself. Once we remove the administrative tasks that technology now handles efficiently, what remains? 3 areas consistently stand out. First is skilled negotiation. Real estate negotiations involve timing, leverage, psychology, and judgment. These are difficult to automate because they depend on context and human behavior. Second is emotional coaching. Buying and selling homes are emotionally charged experiences. People make decisions under stress, uncertainty, and time pressure. A trusted advisor helps clients stay rational when emotions threaten to take over. Third is fiduciary accountability. Licensed professionals provide legal protections, insurance coverage, and recourse mechanisms that software alone cannot offer. These are the functions that continue to justify professional involvement. The evidence suggests that the real value of representation is not data entry or paperwork. It is judgment, guidance, and accountability. Now, let's examine one of the most important concepts in this presentation. The effort required to sell a home does not increase at the same rate as the home's value. Selling a $400,000 property does not require 1/4 of the effort needed to sell a $1.6 million property. Yet percentage-based commissions continue to scale upward with price. As a result, the gap between fair market value and actual commission expense widens significantly as home values increase. This gap is what we call the overpayment wedge. The seller is not necessarily receiving proportionally more service. They're simply paying more because the asset is worth more. Understanding that distinction is critical when evaluating whether traditional commission structures still align with the actual work being performed. Consumer behavior reveals an interesting pattern. Most people are comfortable using artificial intelligence to gather information, compare options, and evaluate pricing. In other words, they trust AI as an information tool. However, when the stakes become significant, trust drops dramatically. Executing a home sale involves contracts, negotiations, disclosures, legal obligations, and financial consequences. People may trust AI to inform them, but they are far less likely to trust it to fully represent them. This distinction helps explain why pure automation has not replaced real estate professionals. The challenge is not information trust. The challenge is action trust. And that creates an opportunity for a new model that combines technology efficiency with human accountability. Today's market often presents sellers with what appears to be a simple choice. Option one is the traditional agent model. It offers convenience, expertise, and a strong safety net, but often at a very high price. Option two is the do-it-yourself or flat fee approach. It offers maximum savings but transfers significant responsibility and risk back to the seller. The problem is that neither option is ideal for many consumers. One can be unnecessarily expensive, the other can be unnecessarily risky. As a result, sellers frequently feel trapped between paying too much or taking on too much. The real opportunity may not be choosing one extreme over the other. It may be finding a better balance between the two. This is where the concept of discount full service brokerage enters the conversation. The idea is straightforward. Use technology to eliminate low-value administrative costs while preserving the high-value human functions that sellers still need. Under this model, sellers receive professional negotiation support, emotional guidance, and fiduciary protection. At the same time, they benefit from a lower listing commission that reflects the efficiencies technology now provides. This creates a structure where savings are passed to the consumer rather than absorbed entirely by the system. For many sellers, this represents a practical compromise. They maintain the safety net of professional representation without paying for outdated inefficiencies. Think of this slide as a value filter. At the top are dozens of traditional activities bundled into a real estate transaction. Many of those tasks are administrative in nature. As technology advances, those tasks increasingly move through the filter and become automated or dramatically less expensive. What remains at the bottom is the irreducible core: negotiation, coaching, fiduciary accountability. Those are the areas where human expertise continues to matter most. When we separate these activities from the larger bundle, it becomes easier to understand why a lower commission structure can still deliver meaningful professional value. The market is not eliminating agents. It is redefining what parts of the job deserve premium compensation. Let's compare the three primary selling paths available today. The traditional model offers extensive support and strong protection, but often comes with the highest cost. The DIY model minimizes expenses, but places responsibility for execution, risk management, and negotiation directly on the seller. The discount full service model attempts to capture the strengths of both approaches. It maintains licensed professional support and legal safeguards while leveraging technology to reduce costs. Viewed through this lens, the middle ground approach offers what many sellers are actually seeking. Not maximum service, not maximum savings, but the optimal balance between the two. Ultimately, this discussion is about real dollars. On a $400,000 home, reducing the listing commission from 3% to 1.5% can create thousands of dollars in retained proceeds. That money stays with the homeowner instead of leaving the transaction. For some families, that means a larger emergency reserve. For others, it may represent a meaningful portion of a future down payment. The point is not simply that money is saved. The point is that those savings remain available to support the seller's next financial goal. When viewed from that perspective, commission efficiency becomes more than a pricing discussion. It becomes a wealth retention strategy. No model is perfect, and it's important to recognize the potential challenges. The first consideration is agent quality. Lower cost brokerages must still deliver exceptional negotiation and advisory skills. Sellers should evaluate experience, track record, and local expertise carefully. The second consideration is market coverage. Some regions have stronger discount brokerage availability than others. Depending on location, options may be limited. These risks do not invalidate the model. However, they remind us that selecting the right professional remains just as important as selecting the right fee structure. Price matters, but competence matters even more. As we conclude, the evidence points toward a simple reality. Artificial intelligence has permanently changed the economics of information. Many of the tasks that once justified traditional pricing structures can now be completed faster, cheaper, and more efficiently than ever before. At the same time, human expertise remains critically important, where judgment, trust, negotiation, and accountability are involved. The future is unlikely to be fully traditional, and it is unlikely to be fully automated. Instead, the greatest value may exist in the space between those extremes. An informed seller can use technology to gain transparency, while still relying on qualified professionals for the moments that matter most. Structural market change may take years, but the opportunity to make more informed decisions is available right now. Thank you for your time and attention. This has been Confidential Remarks.